Hello to all of our friends watching us all over the globe, and welcome. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for the immigration conversation. Of course, we have the one and only Attorney Sharif Silmi. Hi, Attorney Sharif.
Hi, Mary. How are you doing? Thank you again. I'm happy to join in to discuss, some current events and what's happening with the obviously the November visa bulletin came out. We kind of pushed it a bit to the end of the month so that we could sort of combine maybe a conversation that will include what is to be expected moving forward, because as we know, November there really was no movement at all one way or another. So hopefully we can kind of have that discussion. So good, nice to be here. Now, any other thoughts or issues that we have going on that you wanted to bring up, or do you want to jump into the bulletin discussion?
Oh, many of our friends are waiting for you to jump right into it. So, Attorney Sharif, maybe you can
Okay,
share.
so I'm gonna see if I could pull up my screen here to sort of, there we go. And essentially what we have is just a quick reminder to folks, because oftentimes there is a confusion that exists with regard to the visa bulletin and the adjustment of status filing chart. So for anyone who's already in the United States and is attempting to adjust status, that is, they are going to go from a for example, an H-1B visa where they, have a priority date that already exists, and they're going to adjust status based on, upgrading their case to a green card. Then they need to be looking at the adjustment of status chart here. So adjustment of status charts from the visa bulletin. So what we're talking about here is that the government essentially is taking the adjustment of status chart, or is taking the visa bulletin dates that are provided by the State Department, right? So State Department, that's what this is right here. So we have the visa bulletin from the State Department.
Okay.
And then what USCIS is doing, or what the Department of Homeland Security through USCIS is doing, is saying, based on our projections, where things stand, we are going to decide in the month of November to use filing date for the purpose of adjustment of status. Or in other instances, they might use the final action date for the purposes of adjustment of status. What that means is that the date that we are interested in is not actually the dates that are listed in the State Department visa bulletin. All right, so I'm going to repeat that. The dates that we are interested in for those who are present in the United States and are seeking to adjust status are not the dates of provided by the State Department. They are not the dates provided by the State Department. Rather, what we do is we look at the State Department website, and it says here, unless otherwise indicated on USCIS website at uscis.gov, visa bulletin, individuals seeking to file applications for adjustment of status with USCIS must use the final action dates. But guess what? It's always indicated. So that sentence is just something that has been there forever. But if we actually go to this link, uscis.gov/visa bulletin info, it will tell us which date to use for the purpose of adjustment of status. So if we go to the adjustment of status filing charts from the visa bulletin, we find that in the month of November, we find in the month of November when to file your adjustment of status. All right. So the date that you want to use for your filing of adjustment of status is not the dates that are provided in the State Department bulletin. Rather, they are the dates that are provided in the USCIS bulletin that extracts dates from the State Department, but they make their own determination as to what dates they want to use. So, for example, if we go into November 23, and we're going to head down to the employment-based side of things, right? In the first category, For India, you have July 1st, 2019. That is the date for which you can file your adjustment of status as of the month of November.
As long as your priority date is before what's indicated there. Is that correct?
That is correct. Exactly. So and then if you are from China, it's August 1st, 2022, and every other country is current, right? So now let's look at the State Department just for illustrative purposes here, right? So for the State Department bulletin, most people, what they're doing is they're saying, oh, I looked up the final action dates for employment based, and I looked up first category, and for India, it says January 1st, 2017. That is not the date that is operative. That is not the date that USCIS is using. So we do not care about that date at all as it relates to November. The only time anyone should care about this January 1st, 2017 date is if they are sitting in India and are waiting for an interview at a consulate abroad.
Which is known as consular processing.
That is correct. Anyone who is presently in the United States seeking to adjust status from for example, H-1B, with a previous priority date, and they're seeking to adjust status to a green card, those folks, what they need to be looking at is this date right here, July 1st, 2019. All right. And with regard to second category, 15th May, 2012. China, 1st of January 20, and all other countries, 1st of Jan 23.
Okay.
So, and those are the exact same dates that were in place in October. There was no change, right?
Yes.
So, we have no changes whatsoever. And as time goes on, what normally happens is that this will start to sort of retrogress or become slower, probably around January or so. And there could also be a recalculation or a recalibration, I should say, of availability of visas for the particular categories. So, for example, right now, there has been a sort of post-COVID catch up with all of the other categories that were normally spilling over into the employment-based preference categories to help out the backlog. That sort of, has not been, happening in the post-COVID period because of the pent-up demand for those visas. So we don't see any movement taking place within the, first or second category. In fact, it has, gotten a bit worse. However, there could be a shift in that, and there could actually be some potential minor movement in the coming months in a positive direction. But the trend will be that as we proceed through the fiscal year beyond, October and into November, December, and particularly into 2024, we're most likely going to see some retrogression. Now, as it relates to the EB1 category, for India in particular, it's going to be probably relatively minor, and then it'll be quite dramatic at the end of the fiscal year, where, when they basically run out of availability for the present fiscal year. So what that means is those who are approved within the EB1 category, as we have been seeing folks apply for adjustment of status in the last fiscal year, and I think it's going to be the same case this fiscal year, the adjustment of status is going relatively fast, meaning they're completing the processing of adjustment of status much faster than they were in prior years. So that's a welcome change, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to use all the availability that they have, because the administration is relatively favorable toward wanting to expand the benefit or the immigration benefits or availability of immigration benefits. However, the number of visas available is controlled by Congress. It's not something that the administration is able to, have any say over without an act of Congress. So that's sort of where we are with regard to policy and how it's impacting the actual visa bulletin. But just, I think the biggest takeaway, because there hasn't been much change in the bulletin, that I think folks need to keep in mind and try to remember is that in order to get an accurate understanding of the current dates as it relates to adjustment of status, that is particularly important for those who are present in the United States and are beneficiaries of an I-140. The dates that you want to look at are the ones provided by USCIS. Do not depend upon the final action date from the State Department bulletin, because as it was in October and as it is in November, those dates are not controlling. USCIS is making their own determination and has been using the filing date from the State Department bulletin for the purposes of adjustment of status. So that means that as long as that date remains current while your I-485 is filed and remains pending, then they'll continue to process your I-485 and you will actually receive a green card so long as the dates remain current on the adjustment of status bulletin, which is provided here, when to file your adjustment of status application for family sponsored or employment based preferences, November 2023. And as I've done in the past, I'll go ahead and make sure that, we share this with you in our, bulletins and comments and such. All right. So I hope that clarifies this issue and allows folks to sort of, make sure that we're on the same page. So that's basically what's been going on here. And I hope that everybody understands, there's a lot of misinformation out there, whether it's related to the visa bulletin or whether it's related to the kind of evidence that people, present for various immigration benefits. And it's important for us as attorneys that we're, providing the correct information. So thank you guys so much. And there's a question: is this just a theory? Do you have people who are able to adjust status? Yes, this is fact. This is not a theory. This is absolutely the case. Sandeep, there's no. This is absolute fact, without doubt. And really quick, go ahead, Mary. I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
Oh no, it's fine. Sorry, because I have another question from one of our dear friends, Mr. Amjad. He's saying that it's been more than 8 months since my I-485 petition was filed, and when he inquired, it says case remains pending and that there aren't enough visa numbers available. So I think this question is for those who are not just like in the process of adjusting status, but those who've already adjusted. Does this mean that they are also affected even if they've already filed their adjustment of status like several months ago?
Yeah, so I think that would have to, a specific case, we'd have to look at it and see what the situation is, but that probably means that the date of filing for that particular individual is not current. So we'd have to, look at the adjustment of status bulletin for the month of November and essentially see what the situation will be going forward. It's, it's the same thing as it was in October. So if his date was not current in October, then it's not going to be current in November. But again, case by case situations, we just have to look at them and figure out what the best situation is for that particular individual. So with regard to misinformation, we're coming out with a series called Mythbusters, and we want to kind of take on those sorts of, things that are out there in the public domain and in, immigration forums that are actually, sort of dangerous things that people are relying upon because it's just chatter and it's not really accurate. Some of it is, don't get me wrong, there's some good information, I think, but at the same time, there's a lot of misinformation as well. And just to give you an idea, for my friends from India who are out there, a really interesting statistic I came across the other day, which is that 50.7. So, for example, if we look at EB1A, right? The approval rate approximately, looking at over a number of years, and this is up through about 2020. So it doesn't take into account the last couple of years, but the approval rate for India, or for Indian nationals who apply for EB1A, I'm sorry, I'm going to take that back. The approval rate generally for EB1A for all people, right, regardless of country of origin, is 50.7%. 50.7%, right?
Okay.
Now,
Half, more than half.
yes. Now, would you guess that the approval rate for Indian nationals is higher or lower than the general number?
I would say, I don't know, higher.
Higher, because yeah,
Mhm.
you see,
Because
I mean, we
they're
see so many
uh,
highly talented,
yeah.
amazingly, accomplished, STEM related,
Yeah.
high end roles, right? It makes sense
Mhm.
that it would be higher.
Yeah.
Shockingly, it's actually much lower.
Oh, yeah.
The approval rate for Indian nationals is only 43%.
Oh, but
And
you have
my
access to.
hypothesis is
Mhm.
that it's because of a reliance upon forum chatter and misinformation.
Yeah.
And they're usually, filing the wrong information. Now, internally, our EB1A approval rate is above 90%. So that is, giving us an indication. And even if there is a situation where a case is not approved, then it means we have to go back to the drawing board and resubmit that case and continue the fight, because we're not going to give up on anybody. And if, anybody's out there and wondering what their situation might be, just know that we absolutely will not give up on a case no matter what. And it just needs to go through all of the checks and, reviews, because we want to be extra sure that, we're going to do the absolute maximum that they can move on with their life and not be hampered by this, nonsense of immigration. And just the last thing, I want to get off this, kind of talking points, but one thing that I really think is important is there has been in the past year one case in particular that USCIS that we filed that did not get approved, that I found absolutely and totally shocking, to the extent that we decided we're not going to resubmit the case and we're not going to appeal the case to USCIS. Rather, we're going to litigate this case in federal court in the District of Columbia in Washington, D.C. And we hope to also, have a press conference about this as well, and make sure that it's going to be something that is an example that we can advocate for all people who are on the visa backlog, because it's actually, I think, a poster child of how our broken immigration system is hurting our economy and preventing, progress. So we're busy fighting for you guys, and we'll keep up the fight and hope that, everybody really, that needs help. We're going to be very sincere about the help we could provide, and try to be authentic and do what we can to help improve your lives. So that's our commitment to everybody out there. I know there's tough times when we see a lack of movement in the visa bulletin, but rest assured, we're doing all we can on our end, and hopefully we can, continue to produce wonderful results for our clients, and also kind of move the needle on the larger discussion as well.
Yes, and you can expect that if ever you do sign up with us, and you, of course, give your full trust, right, and faith in Attorney Sharif, you will be happy, because Attorney Sharif really puts his skin in the game. Sorry, that's our favorite. Yeah, Attorney Sharif. Thank you very much. I think that's about it. To those
Thank
who
you.
are,
I just want to address the last question. Somebody asked what the success rate is if we go for litigation after denial. Look, I'm very selective about what kind of case I would litigate. Um, and I think it would depend upon your specific circumstances. So, it really depends. I think, we have to make sure that the actual submission itself was properly organized, and
Mhm.
um, you highlighted the main areas, and you also have to look at practically what's in your interest, right? I don't want to go into a litigation that's going to take a year or a year and a half or two if I think that I can, resubmit the case and get an approval within, 3 or 4 months. So I don't think that it would be, something that would be in a person's interest. You have to be practical about it.
Mhm.
But at the same time, where it does make sense, we would absolutely be, looking to do that. And then the last question for Mr. Martinez, certainly we've had cases, journalists, I know a really good journalist who got approved for NIW, and then lawyers, folks with a master's degree, of course. Yes, we can, definitely get there. Just reach out, set up a consultation, and every specific case is different, right? There's not really a one size fits all approach. So reach out and we could definitely help you. But certainly, national interest waiver is one of our strengths.
Okay, so I think thank you so much, Attorney Shreve. That was heartening. So to everybody, just hold on and just hang on. I mean, and then like again, please do not hesitate to inquire, to reach out. You can see where and how you can contact us. So just very quickly, Attorney Shreve, like going back to your forecast, like how maybe a quick forecast before we go. Do you think, when do you think it's going to change, or do
So
you?
I think I think there might be some minor improvement, possibly,
Mhm.
in the December bulletin. But then I think we're going to start to see some retrogression in January and beyond.
Okay, but for now, we're here to help you do what you can for the time being, to those to the things, the matters that you can take into your own hands right now. Thank you very much, Attorney Sharif.
Thank you, Mary. It's always a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you in our next video recording session. Bye bye.
Absolutely.